Hello everybody. In our last episode, when we looked at some images associated with Christmas, we saw this picture by Bob Hawkridge that he drew for the cover of the Christmas edition of the New Zealand Graphic and Ladies Journal in 1893. We also saw this advertisement he produced for tea blenders and importers Nelson Mote & Co., a company that was founded in Christchurch about 1880, which appeared on the back cover. And we saw this illustration by Hawkridge last time too. What I didn't show you is that there's a tea advertisement on the back of that publication as well. As demand for tea grew, Dunedin wholesale merchants J. Rattray and Son added a tea blending department to their business, establishing a factory that had the capacity to produce up to 2,000 packets of tea per day. J. Rattray and Son's first blend, known as Mandarin teas, was a mix of teas grown in China, India and Ceylon, or Sri Lanka as we know it now. In 1890, Rattrays launched a new blend of teas from India and Ceylon, which they called Tiger. Although the company subsequently introduced other blends, such as Hazelmere and Gold Leaf, none topped Tiger. It would remain one of the nation's favourites for generations. Rattray's product packaging, advertising material and stationery were all produced locally, such as these two examples by one of New Zealand's leading lithographers, Peter McIntyre. In 1894, William Wilson left J. Rattray and Son to go into business with coffee and spice merchant Thomas Kearns, who had arrived in Dunedin in the late 1880s and established a factory with 6 coffee mills, capable of turning out 700 tonnes of coffee per year. Kearns was also an experienced tea taster, valuer and blender, and as you can see, Kearns, Wilson & Co. produced a brand of tea named Uva, after a tea-growing region of Ceylon, for which Peter McIntyre was again called upon to produce the advertising material. Kearns, Wilson & Co. lasted only a few years. Thomas Kearns relocated to Auckland and established another wholesale tea, coffee and spices business there later in the 1890s. Neal & Company was another large Dunedin merchant house that, like J. Rattray and Son, opened a tea blending and packing factory in the portion of the city we now know as Dunedin's warehouse precinct. Neal & Company's brands included Universal, Half Crown, Florin and Spring Blossom. Like J. Rattray and Son, Neal & Company entrusted the printing and lithographic work for marketing their teas to local firms, with Peter McIntyre again being the artist behind works like these two. Australian-born tea merchant Norman Harper Bell joined Neal & Company in the mid-1890s. He departed 5 years later, and a court case ensued when he sought to recover £200 that he felt was owed to him. Bell then joined Robert Wilson & Company, yet another long-standing Dunedin merchant house that had added a tea department to its portfolio. But a few years later, in 1904, Bell bought the Bell Tea brand that he had established for Robert Wilson & Company and began operating on his own account as the Bell Tea Company. While the venture proved successful, Norman Harper Bell didn't have long to enjoy the fruits of his labour. He died less than a decade later in 1912, aged 47. A couple of years after his death, Norman's widow Laura and their daughter Doris set off on a trip abroad. Their intention was to spend 3 years travelling. However, after arriving in London in 1914, the outbreak of war in Europe likely scuppered their plans. At the same time, Norman and Laura's son, who was also named Norman, was in Ceylon on company business and signed up to fight with the Ceylon contingent. After the war, the family would base themselves in America and Auckland. Sometime before leaving Dunedin, Laura Bell gifted this painting, which she appears to have painted herself in 1894, to Minnie Sayers, who was a housemaid at the Bell family home in St Clair. Minnie left the Bells' employ and married William Williams at First Church in February 1913. And she and William would have one child, a daughter who they would name Laura after Laura Bell. Must be time for a cuppa. So we'll say see you next time, and thanks for watching.